Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel FPL Moneyball, where I use data analysis to identify the most attractive players to buy for your fantasy football teams. Today we'll be looking at a new game mode, UEFA Fantasy Football, which covers the midweek Champions League matches instead of the usual FPL matches on the weekend. And I'll show you my team selection for matchday 1, as well as a review of the performance, the key player highlights, as well as some of the future stars to look out for. So without further ado, let's take a look at my team selection, in which I scored 90 points in matchday 1. So this is the team that I selected for matchday 1. We can see from the key highlights, the captain Mbappé scored 13 points, so he got doubled to 26 points after he scored two goals from the penalty spot. The other forwards were Erling Haaland, who scored a goal against Napoli, as well as Sergio Guirassy, who scored an assist against Juventus in the 4-4 draw. For the midfielders, we have Rafinha, who blanked against Newcastle. Unfortunately, the other winger on the other side, Marcus Rashford, scored the goals in those games, and Rafinha didn't manage to get a return there. Michael Olise for Bayern also didn't really get much of a return, although he did score 4 points. The game was dominated by Harry Kane, who always shows up in this time of big matches and always comes away with the goals there. So a bit unfortunate that Olise didn't get away with much, but I do think that he does have very interesting and good underlying stats to back his performance. The last midfielder is Tijani Reinders, also from Man City, who scored an assist, helped the team to their 2-0 win against Napoli. He assisted Jeremy Doku towards the end of the game, and I do think that he has potential to provide a more creative outlet from a bit of a deeper position in the midfield. So moving on to the defenders, our first defender, Grimaldo for Leverkusen, didn't manage to get a clean sheet, but he still managed to come away with a goal for Leverkusen, and that's the reason why I brought him into my team, is because he does have that attacking threat going forward, and he's also on set pieces, which gives him additional opportunities to come away with returns. The next defender is Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool, who also didn't manage to get a clean sheet, but still came away with 12 points after scoring a goal, and I believe had a man of the match performance. So I do think Liverpool defense looked a bit better against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, although their form domestically hasn't been very good lately. The next defender, the first one who got a clean sheet, was Hakimi from PSG, and helped PSG to win 4-0 against Atalanta. Although he didn't bag as many points as the other defenders in the game, Marquinhos and Nuno Mendes, who scored almost double his points. He did have a solid return of 7 points this game week, which was pretty good. And lastly, the other defender also on 7 points was Calafiori from Arsenal, who continued the strong run of form and clean sheets for Arsenal, and they look very solid at the back defensively. Lastly, for goalkeeper, we got Vicario from Spurs, who kept a clean sheet against Villarreal in their 1-0 win against Villarreal. So all my defenders actually did return this game week. Although some of them didn't get clean sheets, some of them did provide attacking returns, which is a very encouraging sign for some of these more attacking defenders. On the bench, we did have Chevalier from PSG, who didn't play, unfortunately, because Vicario played first and already kept a clean sheet, so I left him on the bench. Two Real Madrid players, Huijsen and Güler. Huijsen didn't get the clean sheet because Carvajal was sent off, got a red card, and Real Madrid conceded. And this could have also impacted Güler's performance in that game. So it wasn't the best performance for Real Madrid, but Mbappé still did very well in that game. Lastly was Camara from Monaco, who I didn't play. He's more of a budget option, and in case one of my players didn't play at all in the game week, then I would sub him on. Otherwise, I don't really have much high hopes of him scoring. So out of these 11 players, 2 of them made it to the team of the week, Mbappé and Van Dijk with 12 and 13 points respectively. So now let's take a look at some of the games. I won't be covering all the games this match week, but we'll just be covering the key games that my players are involved in, and also some of the stats that we learned from the game and how they can explain the performances of this team. So the first game to look at is Atletico Club, who lost 2-0 against Arsenal. We can see from the amount of expected goals conceded that Arsenal are amongst the best teams in the Champions League with only 0.3 expected goals conceded, along with other teams, Villarreal, PSG, Tottenham, Olympiacos, and Manchester City. So Arsenal are definitely a team to target defensively, although they have suffered from the loss of William Saliba on injury. Their backline continues to be very solid, and Mosquera, who has actually stepped in to fill the gap of Saliba, and has continued the strong run of performance for Arsenal's defense. So the next game was Real Madrid versus Marseille, which I mentioned earlier on. Real Madrid actually had a red card early in the game, which caused them to concede and could have affected their performance in that match. However, the standout player was by far Mbappé, who scored 2 goals from penalties, and not all of his chances were actually from penalties. He did have the highest amount of expected goals per 90 of 2.24, which is one expected goal per 90 higher than the next best player, Bradley Barcola from PSG, with 1.23 xG. So some other stats that are very encouraging for Mbappe is that he did have 10 shots, out of which 5 were on target, which is the highest amongst any player in the Champions League so far. So I do think playing him as the central striker for Real Madrid, he's going to get even more chances to score. Given his quality, he will continue to back goals for Real Madrid, and it's definitely an important asset to have for your fantasy teams. The next game we'll look at is Dortmund versus Juventus, which ended in a 4-4 thriller. I think both teams have a lot of very quality attacking options, but their defense is a bit open, which caused the game to be very exciting with a lot of goals involved in the game. So for Juventus, the star players were Yildiz and Vlahovic, scoring double-digit points, and Borussia Dortmund did have a lot of attacking options going forward, with Adeyemi, Guirassy, who only came back with an assist, but and so he only scored 5 points this game week. But given that Dortmund have a lot of attacking options going forward, they are a good team to have one of their attacking options in the forward or midfielder position. So last game in the first day was Tottenham versus Villarreal, which Tottenham won 1-0. And again, very solid defensive performance from Tottenham under new manager Thomas Frank. They look much more organized. So their back four and goalkeeper continues to impress. And, that's the reason why I do have Vicario in my team. So let's take a look at the games on Thursday. A few things to highlight here. Firstly was that PSG won 4-0 against Atalanta. PSG, of course, being the reigning champions of the Champions League, have a lot of danger and attacking threat going forward, as well as solid defensive backline. So as I mentioned, the defenders, both Marquinhos and Nuno Mendes, both scored a goal in this game week. And for forward-wise, there were players like Barcola who got attacking returns. Their midfield of Vitinha also getting some returns in. So definitely you want to look at having 2 or 3 PSG assets in their team, because they are really looking like one of the best teams in the competition once again this season. So the next game was Bayern Munich versus Chelsea, which Bayern won 3-1, and Harry Kane scored the goals there to help Bayern win against Chelsea. So once again, Harry Kane, very good performer in these big competitions, and he's always amongst the leading goal scorers in big competitions. So a very good asset to have in your team. For Chelsea, they were a bit unlucky. They had one late goal disallowed by Cole Palmer, who bagged a goal earlier in the game. He looks like he is returning to his form, having scored in the Premier League as well earlier last game week. So he's one to look out for, but given his price tag, that may also might deter some people from owning him because of his price. So next we look at Liverpool versus Atleti, where Liverpool won 3-2. And Mo Salah was the standout performer here, recording the second highest expected goals plus assists per 90 this game week, just after Mbappé. So he does, although he hasn't really shown much form in the Premier League this season, in this match against Atleti, he was looking very dangerous, and he even missed two big chances which could have added to his tally of 10 points already this game week. So lastly, the last match was Ajax versus Inter, which Inter won 2-0. They managed to cap a clean sheet. The runners-up of last year's competition also looked pretty solid this season. And Çalhanoğlu was the key player here, creating two big chances in this game. So for the last Friday's fixture, surprisingly, Club Brugge beat Monaco 4-0. 4-1. I'm not too sure about the players in this team, but Club Brugge definitely looked exciting going forward. Copenhagen drew 2-2 against Leverkusen, and Leverkusen have kind of struggled this season with the departure of Xabi Alonso as well as Erik ten Hag. So they are struggling a bit this season, but key assets like Grimaldo will continue to show consistent performance, and that's why I'm keeping him in my team. So Man City also beat 10-man Napoli 2-0. Although Haaland got a goal, the standout performer was Phil Foden, who ranks amongst the top players for expected goals per expected assists per 90, with 1.55, higher than Mohamed Salah. So he looks like he's returning to form both in the Premier League and the Champions League. So definitely one to look out for if his form continues to improve. Also another thing to highlight is Man City looked much better in their defense with the signing of Gianluigi Donnarumma from PSG, who helped them get their clean sheet against Napoli, and also they were one of the best teams in terms of expected goals conceded this game week. Lastly, Barcelona beat Newcastle 2-1. Although Rafinha didn't get many of the returns, I think he was chosen by about 50% of people, but surprisingly, it was actually Marcus Rashford who got a goal and who got two goals this game. And his performance was really good. He scored a header, which he doesn't usually score, and also a wonder goal from outside the box. So hopefully he continues to improve on his form. And it was a very surprising pick. I don't think many people chose Rashford in their teams. So definitely do watch out for him. So this will be the Dream 11 from match day 1, and all these players were given a good potential to score well in this game week. So they were selected by more than 5% of the players in this game mode, which means that they are not moonshots, but they do have some attractiveness and options around them. If you went with this team with a 3-5-2 formation, benching Vanaken, Calafiori, and Huijsen, you have scored 145 points, and also if you captained Kane. And so the teams that impressed this game week were PSG with 3 players, Marquinhos, Nuno Mendes, and Chevalier, all from defense, scoring clean sheets, and the defenders even got some attacking returns this game. Liverpool had 2 players, Mohamed Salah and Van Dijk, who are arguably their best players in the game. And Inter also had 2 players with Thuram and Çalhanoğlu, who have a history of performing well in this game mode. Other key picks include Mbappé, which I mentioned earlier on. He's getting a lot of chances. Yildiz and Adeyemi, who play for very exciting Juventus and Borussia Dortmund sides respectively. Lastly, for the defense, we do have options in Calafiori and Huijsen in case that there are more budget options, in case you're short on the budget. So that's it for my game week 5, my game week 1 review for UEFA Champions League football. So stay tuned late for FPL game week 5 team selection tomorrow. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you tomorrow. Bye.